Welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, here with returning guest, Dr. Paul Reeves, who has served for over 30 years in education, first as a teacher and then also as a school principal and administrator. During his work as an educational consultant, he's helped teachers, principals, superintendents, and school board members to more effectively address the needs of their students and communities so they could all achieve success. He is also the author of the book, A Principal's Family Principles, which is 85 stories from his days as a father of 3 children, his time as a teacher, and his work as a school principal, all designed to help parents to raise their kids to be healthy and happy while enjoying the journey. He has 5 university degrees, and he has his own show, Dr. Paul's Family Talk, which has just Dr. Paul's Family Talk, his Impact Radio USA, which is an internet radio station that features his Dr. Paul's Family Talk radio show, but it also includes Impact Music, Impact Classics, Parenting 101 Plus, a sports show, and the Bible in Today's World, which has just celebrated 1 year. Congratulations. Paul loves the Lord and is always willing to discuss his wonders, his word, and all that the kingdom has to offer us. Welcome, Dr. Paul.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah. Good to see you again. Good to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you back. We had so much fun last time. Such a great episode chatting about family and life and parenting. Yeah. And I was like, I have to have you back and continue the conversation.
I appreciate that.
Last time we really focused on parenting, and what stuck out to me in your bio this time was that to enjoy the process of parenting. Because sometimes, you just have those times and seasons, and they're all different, right? Whether they're little or whether they're getting bigger, that you're just like, God, I know your word says this is a blessing.
Yeah.
Help me live in it as a blessing, right? So what would you suggest if we have somebody listening today that is like, God, you know what? This is just, I'm having a hard time seeing the blessing in this.
Well, very few kids will set out to do harm. I guess every once in a while you'll see one, a wiring is crossed. But so when they do something that looks like a knuckleheaded move, you're thinking, how stupid was that? Well, to them, it wasn't stupid at all. It made perfect sense. Yes, the glass of water spilled all over the floor, but I thought it would survive the fall. They saw something in a cartoon or something. And so they're not out to get you. It feels like it sometimes. And we had an incident years ago. In fact, it's in my book, A Principal's Family Principles. 3 kids. The girl is the oldest, and then boy and boy. All 3 years apart. Girl, 3 years later, boy. 3 years later, boy. The girl and the youngest boy got along beautifully, almost like they were the same person, just one male, one female, and separated by 6 years. The one in the middle, his role was to just muck it up as much as possible. How can I make their lives tough? If they yell at me, I've had a good day, all in fun. I mean, he was like the antagonist. And one day down the hallway in the bathroom in the morning, the girl and the youngest boy were in front of the mirror combing their hair. You could hear them talking. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they started screaming at each other. Now, that never happened. Again, they just thought each other was the greatest. I thought, what? I thought they were kidding at first. It was so over the top. And it continues. I thought, I better go down there and find out what's going on. And as I left my bedroom to walk down the hall, here came the middle child up the stairs with one of those gigantic squirt gun things. And he said, Dad, don't worry about it. I got this. I said, wait a minute. I didn't see the squirt gun at first. I said, what's in your hand? He goes, oh, nothing. I said, come back here. Saw the squirt gun. He was going to go in there and squirt them both right before they had to leave for school, which, you squirt a girl's hair and get it all wet moments before she leaves for school. Bad things are going to happen. So,
I have 3 girls. I know.
Yeah. Now, on the one hand, I wanted to say, hey, and just yell and throw the squirt gun away. But I realized the humor in it. Like, this is just darn funny. He thought of a solution. And yes, they would have stopped screaming at each other. They would have started screaming at him. But it's still, he thought of a solution at age, whatever, 9, 8. I don't even know what he was. But so you just got to laugh. Just got to enjoy life and enjoy your blessings that God gave you and enjoy the journey. And that's what I meant by all that.
Absolutely. And that kind of reminds me of a story, from my girls when they were really young. and this was actually the highlight of my very first podcast episode on this podcast. I was in the kitchen cooking, and all of a sudden it got real quiet. Which when your kids are 7 and under, there's 3 of them. You got to go check it out. So I go around the corner. We had a very small house at the time, so it wasn't a very far walk to go from the kitchen to the bathroom, maybe like 10 paces.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all in there, all of them. And they had found a bottle of glitter, which I thought I had buried far, so deep in the closet underneath multiple things. They would never find it. They found it, and they decided they were going to make the bathroom beautiful.
There you go.
And as mom, I stood there and I saw my kids head to toe in glitter, the bathroom everywhere, the walls, the floor, everywhere. And I was like, but they had the biggest smiles.
Of course.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
We made the bathroom beautiful. Because I wanted to yell and be like, oh, do you know how much work this is going to be for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't.
That's right.
God help me. And I could see it through their eyes. And I think that's a big key is you have to learn to get out of yourself and see it through their eyes.
That's it.
Like, okay, yeah, I still had a lot of work to clean up. And I'll tell you, we moved years later, several years later, we moved out of the house. I was still finding glitter in crevices.
They did a really good job, didn't they?
They did. They did a really good job. And we never bought glitter again. I learned my lesson.
Well, see, the mistake you made was you said, I put it somewhere where I thought they'd never find it. That's a huge, they'll always find it. Whatever it is, they'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another valuable lesson learned. Yeah. You'll always find it.
Always. Well, one time we were getting ready to go on vacation and we had rearranged some things and cleaned out the attic and the garage. So the garage itself had a lot of stuff in it. And I thought, we'll just get it when we come back from vacation. Let's not worry about this now. And so the van was outside the garage in the driveway. We had to walk from the inside of the house to the garage, out to the driveway to load the car, suitcases, whatever we were taking. And my youngest son had taken a glass, literally glass, not a plastic cup, but glass of water, and he brought it to the garage. I said, what are you doing with that? He goes, well, in case I get thirsty. I said, great, but glass? Why not plastic? He goes, I don't know. It's the first thing I saw. Okay, well, put it on the shelf there, and so it doesn't get knocked over. Well, I wasn't paying a lot of attention. I think he did move it to the shelf, but later took a sip and put it on top of a trash can. And then I came out with the suitcase, loaded it in the car, and behind me I heard smash, break, and I knew it was the glass. And so I turned around, and that's when I saw it was on the trash can, or had been on the trash can, in about 1 billion pieces on the garage floor. And he was 10, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he knew he had done wrong, but he said, Dad, if you hadn't put it there, none of this would have happened. Imitating my dad, his grandfather. And I just burst into laughter. I just couldn't hold it in. Like, that was funny. You ruined a glass. You didn't do the responsible thing, but darn it, that was funny. Now, the other way to go about that is, get to your room, vacation's canceled. You're going to have hard labor for the next 50 years. Where's the joy in that, right? just enjoy the journey. Now, you don't want that to happen every day. You don't want to lose a glass every day because it's so funny. You're like, okay, this happened once. Let's not have it happen again. But it was still funny.
What can we learn from this? What can we learn?
That's exactly right. A very good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking too, just even ways for parents to be able to get to that point where they can come out from their perspective, find their child's perspective, not blow up in the moment. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've had plenty of times where I have snapped or gotten snippy, and then I had to go back and repent and apologize to the child and say, you know what, it wasn't cool. I was very human in that moment. And I think that's important for them to see too, because sometimes you think that adults have it all together, when you're a kid, and you need to see that, they're people too.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think there's almost like a reservoir that we have to create within ourselves to be able to have the fortitude and the resilience in the moment when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
We can't just get there in the moment. Does that make sense? Like, I think sometimes we kind of want to just be there in the moment, but I think there's things that we have to do and can do outside of those moments when it is calm, when it is fun and peaceful, that can prepare us inside to handle those moments.
Yeah. Well, the incidents we just described, the water gun, the glass, and the glitter, those things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not exact replicas, but similar stories will happen in every house. And if you're not prepared as the parent to deal with it, okay, what will I do when I go in the bathroom? There's glitter everywhere, for example. And you take yourself through. It's kind of, like a pregame activity. The NBA, they always practice their foul shots without a ball. They just pretend they're shooting. Well, pretend you're dealing with your kid. Walk in your bathroom, pretend there's glitter everywhere. How are you going to respond? And you just practice it and take yourself through. So when the moment does happen, you've already practiced and rehearsed. Now, I had an advantage. I was a teacher and a school principal, so I was always around kids, so I saw everything. So when something happened at home, it's like, seen that 50,000 times. Oh, well, let's deal with it. But it was kind of funny. But if you're not around kids all day, if you're in corporate America or doing anything other than hanging with kids all day, that could be kind of tough because the only kids you really know are the kids you have at home, and they're misbehaving, or at least you think they're misbehaving. They're really just having fun with glitter. They probably saw nothing wrong with that, right?
Right. Nothing
Probably
wrong.
proud of their
They're
work.
helping you decorate.
Yeah, exactly. Save you money on new wallpaper. Look what we did, Mom.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
So if you take yourself through and practice, okay, when the big moment arrives, and it will arrive,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do? How will I react? Will I make mincemeat out of them and send them to rooms forever? Or will I just, guys, let's talk about this. I'll help you start cleaning. You're going to do most of the cleaning. But let's not do this again because here's why. It costs money, whatever the reasons are. But to blow it and to blow up and to go after them and make them feel like the worst humans who ever lived, nobody
Right.
wins. Nobody wins.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love how you said kind of rehearse it in your mind. Just
Yeah.
make a scenario.
Yeah.
Because they're probably going to think of something you didn't. It's okay.
Right.
But find a scenario and rehearse it in your mind. Kind of manage your expectations. I think that's a big part of it. Because sometimes we come at it from the adult, having had those experiences as a kid where we broke the glasses, where we ran over something with, a toy and it broke. And we're like, oh no, you don't want to do that. Don't do that but they don't have that frontal lobe development yet. They don't have the foresight. They don't have that reasoning. And without some of those life experiences, they don't get it. And they don't necessarily believe us either.
Right. Yeah. They literally have to live and learn.
Yes, literally live and
Yeah.
learn. I think that's a big point is manage your expectations and kind of rehearse. How am I going to handle it? Because it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it happens in different ways at different stages because our oldest is now 16 and we have an almost 14-year-old. So it's happening a little bit differently as they're going into adolescence and we're getting ready to fly the coop with one of them. But I still see some of the similar patterns where, I'm like, okay, I thought we would have, had a little bit more reasoning, but that's okay. We're still developing. We're still growing.
Yeah.
And then just coaching them through that and even sharing, I think, examples from my own life as they're older and can have more of those conversations. They don't have to be shown so much as they can be told.
Yeah.
So you know what? When I was young and just kind of go through the story and this is what I learned, and we're a Christian family, so seek the Lord and go to him in prayer and see what he says. Go to the Bible, see what the Bible says, and we can talk about it. So those are kind of some ways that we've managed through the ages and through the years.
Yeah. I've told my kids, now they're all grown. They're all on their own. 2 are married. 1 will be married in just a few months. And I'm still, depending on the kid, 20, 25 years older than each kid. I was that old when they were born. I remind them of that. Whatever you've been through, as smart as you are now, I've been around even longer than you. I'll always be around longer than you. So if you run into something, you're not sure what to do, just give me a call. Chances are I've been through it 50 times. If I've never seen it before, I'll tell you that and we'll strategize what to do. And so sometimes my kids will call, even though they're, adults, and they'll say, Dad, what would you do if this happened? Or, this happened, what should I do? Because they know I've been there before. So walking into the bathroom, seeing the glitter, you probably did something similar when you were a kid. Maybe not glitter, but something that ticked off your mom or dad. So
It
you
was
know
a
how they
worm
dealt with.
collection.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a worm collection.
Oh, why not? How'd you do that? In a glass jar or just all over the house or what?
My brother's Tonka truck. I
Why
took
not?
his Tonka truck and collected worms, and my mom found it in the garage. They were all dead.
Oh gosh. Well,
Yeah.
that's what Tonka trucks provided transportation for the worms. So maybe you were destined to be a transportation director, just didn't know it. Always look at the positive, right? Did that
Oh,
story keep coming back over the years? Like, remember the time when you were whatever age you were?
well, I think I was probably about 5 or 6,
Yeah,
and I'm an outdoor person. I loved digging in the dirt and climbing trees,
yeah,
and I just decided I was gonna have pet worms. And you know what's ironic is
yeah.
I've been trying to convince my husband to buy a worm farm for a while.
There you go.
So there's something there. I don't know. But I said,
Uh,
but I decided I was going to collect worms and
yeah,
didn't know that they would die if they weren't in the ground.
right.
And my poor mother
Yeah.
found a Tonka truck full of dead worms.
How much time had elapsed from the time you parked the truck in the garage to the time she
uh,
found it?
Probably a day, a
Yeah,
good day at least.
doesn't take long. Yeah. Oh boy.
No, they
Well,
stank. She said they smelled real bad.
yeah. But you see, you probably learned from that, right? You probably never did it again. Yeah. Well, there you
Nope,
go.
never did it again.
You're still alive to tell about it. So your parents did a good job there, and you learned. So they did a
I,
good job there. That's basically what it's all about. Now you're laughing about it. I'm guessing your parents are still laughing about it years later.
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're laughing about it. They tell my kids and they
Yeah.
laugh about it. And I think that what's key there is that my mom didn't blow up at me.
Yeah.
She said, "Okay, Debbie, so I found something in the garage today." And I think that's important, that approach. Um, because you have to be a safe place for your kids. If you're always blowing up at them,
Yeah.
why would they come to you with questions?
They wouldn't. They won't.
They won't. They won't
Yeah.
come to you with the harder things in life if you're blowing up at them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that as parents we really need to keep in our mind, that
Yeah.
the way we handle these unexpected situations that you're like, oh dear, um,
Yeah.
really key. So again, like going back to managing expectations and going back to rehearsing in your head, what do I do?
Yeah.
What are my strategies that I'm going to use? How am I going to approach it? Um, so that and coaching and leading and keeping that safe place for my kids.
Yeah. Because again, those incidents will happen. It's not as though maybe I can make it till they're 18 and nothing will go wrong. No, that's not going to happen.
No.
It's just a matter of how many things will happen. Maybe you can minimize it, but you're not going to prevent it. And so you better be ready. And part of my being ready was, yeah, we're going to learn from it. We're going to clean it up. We're going to have a good laugh about it too. And we'll probably bring it up 50,000 times between now and the day we all die. Just have a good laugh about it. So that's to me, when I say, healthy and enjoying the ride, enjoy the ride. I enjoyed that squirt gun. It would have been devastating if he had pulled it off and squirted them. Might not have enjoyed that as much, but I enjoyed the ingenuity, the thought process. Like, I got to put a stop to this yelling in the house. Hey, I know he thought of a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Good problem solver.
Yeah,
Maybe not the best way of solving it, but at least it was an instant solution. I guarantee you that would have worked.
it
So
would have worked.
that's
Maybe
right.
not the way he expected.
Right. Yeah, it would have worked all right. And same thing with the glass. Okay, that was bad news putting it on the trash can. And I can tell you, sitting here this morning, that never happened again. He never came to the garage with a glass. It was always a plastic cup. And he'd make sure I noticed, hey, Dad, look what I'm carrying. It'd be a plastic cup of water. Well, great. This is terrific. And then we go through the story again and have a good laugh about it. So got to enjoy it. And, at the end of each show, Parenting 101 Plus, I always have a joke or two or three. And they're kind of lame. They're not really funny. But before I tell them, I say, because when you're a parent, you have to laugh. You have to find ways to laugh, or you will pull all of your hair out and it just won't be good and nobody will have any fun. So that's why we tell the jokes, just to send you away laughing, and maybe you can share these with your kids later. So you got to be serious, but you have to have fun at the same time.
And I think that's key because I think sometimes as parents, we can get caught up in the frustration, some of the frustrations, right?
Yeah.
And you just wind up complaining.
Yeah.
But then when you get to those moments, you don't have that reservoir because you haven't gotten into the other space in your brain that releases those positive
Yeah.
chemicals
Yeah.
to make you be like, you know what? I have more resilience because I've been laughing, because I've been focusing on some of the positives about my kids, because I've been speaking blessing over my kids and
Yeah.
blessing over this family. Yeah, there's things we need to correct. Sure, everybody does.
Right. Right.
But if we in the off times, if we are, I think, if we are speaking those positives, focusing on the positives about our kids, not always everything that needs to be fixed and corrected, I think that we'll have more of that reservoir to be able to conduct ourselves with greater measures of grace
Yeah.
in those moments.
Yeah. In the long term, well, we can use the glitter story. When your kids are 30 or 35, it will now still be a funny story. Remember the time you totally destroyed our bathroom with this glitter? Or as if you had gone in there and blown up and, sentenced them to their bedroom till now through eternity, it wouldn't be so funny. It wouldn't be something to revisit. Like, oh yeah, I remember the one time I almost got killed by my mom. Well, that's not fun. It's not fun or funny, but if you laugh about it, you still clean it up and you still have a lesson there so it doesn't happen again, then everybody wins.
And we made a memory.
That's right.
A good one, right, that we can go back and revisit in a positive way
That's right.
rather than being like, oh yeah, that was horrible.
And it sets them up someday for when they have kids. Like, okay, mom put the glitter she thought out of sight. I'm not going to buy any glitter. So now the lesson has gone on even into another generation. So
Absolutely. So what do
that
you
works.
say, like you have a parent who just is really struggling with keeping it together, like with not blowing up in those moments. Um, do you have any suggestions for them and things that they can maybe do to help them right now?
A parent who tends to blow up, you mean?
Hmm.
Well, some people, I haven't had to use this myself, but I know some people who have, and that's fine. There's no judgment passed. You do what works for you. They'll have to, like, you walk in the bathroom, there's glitter everywhere, you leave. Okay, guys, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'll be back in 30 minutes, whatever. And by the way, get out of the bathroom or whatever you want to do. Put the glitter down. Yeah. And I'll be back. And then you go somewhere and you calm down. Whatever takes you to calm down, a drink of water, an apple, a candy bar, and whatever. Okay, I think I can deal with this now. Now let's go back in the bathroom. So what happened here? Take me through this. Where'd you find the glitter? Oh, we found it way in the back where you had hidden it. Oh yeah. And you thought you were helping me? Yeah, doesn't it look great? Well, no, it doesn't. Here's why. But you've put some time to separate the actual discovery of the incident with you addressing it. Because if you addressed it before, it would have been boom, nuclear war, world wars 3 through 10 in your bathroom with your kids. Nobody wins there. And it's just a bad situation for all. The kids will be devastated. Because remember, as you told the story, they thought they were doing a good thing. They weren't setting out to, I know how we'll get mom. We'll damage the bathroom. No, they thought they were beautifying the bathroom. So they would have been destroyed. And the parent who blew up never would have felt good about that. They would have, oh gosh, I can't believe I did that. Either later that day or the next day or the next week. Yeah, that was bad the way I laid into my kids. And sometimes you have to lay into your kids, by the way. If they do knuckleheaded stuff on purpose, that's a different story. But in this case, they thought they were helping. They thought they did a great job. So I guess just put some time and space between the incident and when you address it.
Right. And I think that you also brought out something key to discern when is a kid just being a kid
Yeah.
and they just don't know, they don't understand, they're not being malicious, they're just being an immature human being.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and whatever that looks like at the different stages, right?
Yeah.
And then and a heart that is actually looking to harm and being malicious, being rebellious. And so really discerning the heart and the motive, I think, is key too, and our approach.
Yeah.
So with the glitter incident, there was nothing malicious about what
No.
they were doing.
No.
But there are other times when I have to be firm and
Yeah.
I sit them down and you look at them right in the face and you're like, listen, and you have to bring some more corrective action swiftly. And
Yeah.
then, of course, follow it with love and grace and forgiveness so they can experience the forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
aspect because that's key too. I think sometimes we as parents forget that we bring the correction, but we don't always bring that tangible forgiveness that if they're little, scoop them up in your lap, hold them, pray blessing over them, speak words of forgiveness and affirmation over them, say, I had to do this because,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing ever changes how much I love you.
Right.
And then bringing that forgiveness, because sometimes I think even as adults, we get stuck in our past mistakes and failures, and then we lose the power of the forgiveness of Christ, and we don't live in it because we don't really understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a very good point. And it all has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the parent, you're the one in charge. We hope you're the more mature one between you and your 2 or 3 little kids. We want the parent to be the smartest one, the most mature one. So it's up to you to handle it the right way.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think too, if you find that you're like, you know what, I have so much brokenness in me that I can't be the mature one. I can't be that emotionally healthy person because it happens, right?
Yeah.
You're chronologically an adult, but inside you had a rough life
Yeah.
and things are
Yeah.
hard. Um, any thoughts on that part of it too?
No, you're right. And I've seen that quite a bit where the parent is on the maturity level of the kids for whatever reason. And there might be a substance abuse issue. There might be something in their past that they just hadn't gotten out of. Well, then you got to bring somebody in. Hopefully, you have a spouse who can take care of things, or a brother or a sister, or somebody. You can't let it just go on for years. Okay, I'm a dysfunctional adult and I'm making my kids dysfunctional with my own behavior. You can't just let that go on. It's got to be addressed one way or the other. There are several ways to do it. You got to find what works for you, but don't let it go. Like every time I walk in the door, I start screaming at my kids because their shoes aren't put away or their homework isn't done. Well, that's not a functional way to go through life.
Right.
Once in a while, it is. I like the classic story is kids running through the house with a knife. Well, that means really quick, loud, swift action because somebody can get really hurt. Nobody's going to get hurt over the fact that shoes aren't put away. It's not a life altering, life ending potentially event. So don't blow up. And if you do blow up and you need help, I mean, could even be professional counseling at some point, but you have to make some changes or bring somebody else in to help you until you get a handle on things.
Right. And I love how you highlighted the spectrum, I think, the
Yeah.
substance abuse, which is, of course, very obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, there's something going on here. You need rehab, you need counseling,
Yeah.
and then all the way to the other end where it's like a little gray. Like,
Yeah.
how often is a blow up is okay? Okay, because we're all human.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And in what situations? And how we use our language. Is it always harsh
Yeah.
and condemning, contemptuous, laced with that? Because maybe those are just learned communication patterns from a dysfunctional family, and you need to become aware of that
Mm-hmm.
and flip your language around. Because the heart might be, oh, I want to be a good parent, but I just don't have the skills.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
And so again, yeah, keying into that. And I think also, maybe if there's a parent that's like, well, I don't know if I fall on that gray spectrum area. I think, maybe just looking at how the behavior with the kids,
Yeah.
and how they respond to your communication. Because I think that if we're bringing that firm, swift, gracious correction,
Yeah.
versus harsh correction, I think there's going to be a response difference. You'll see it in their face, you'll see it in their
Yeah.
countenance. I think you'll see it in their interaction. Because I
Yeah.
think that if you're blowing up too often and your language is coming down too hard, I think that the friction level in the house in general is going to go up,
Yeah.
and they're going to draw from that parent. Um, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have a lot more experience than I do in my little world.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
can speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I've seen it over and over. If you keep coming at your kids with nonsensical nonsense, screaming at them for they left a pencil on the table. I mean, come on, you got to get over that quickly, because then they're going to be not as readily available to you, or they won't come to you when they have a real issue. Okay, here's something, someone's picking on me at school. Well, I'm not going to tell mom, or I'm not going to tell dad, because they'll blow up at me. They'll blame me. They'll yell at me. They'll make me feel bad. Whether the kid's aware of it consciously or in the subconscious, it's still there. And then what? Okay, you're the kid. You need help. Can't go to mom. Can't go to dad. Now what do? I don't have any skills beyond this. I'm 8 years old or whatever I am. I guess I'm just stuck. Well, you don't want that for your kids, do you? No.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful talk. Let me see here if I have your website up here. I don't believe so, but you are at the Bible in Today's World, right? Is your radio show Impact, the radio show? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. The radio station is impactradiousa.com. And once you get there, all the shows are listed. There's a drop down menu under our shows, and Dr. Paul's Family Talk, Parenting 101, the music shows you mentioned. I have another one, Christian Conversations. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And the Bible in Today's World. We look at the Bible, find out what it says and how that compares to what's going on in today's world. And as you and I both know, there is no comparison. We are not living the Bible the way Jesus intended for us to live. We're not living that way as a society. And so we're pointing that out, trying to bring people to Jesus. Because if you believe what's out there and you're paying attention, we might not have a whole lot longer here. So it's time to get it together now. Because once it's over, it's over. And if you haven't accepted him as your Lord and Savior, you're not going. You know, a lot of people tell me a loving God would never send his people to hell. Well, except that's not what he said. And really, he doesn't send you to hell. He gives you free will, free choice. You accept him, you go to heaven. You don't accept him, you're gone, because you're not one of his. So he didn't send you there. You're sending yourself there. And you will end up there if you don't accept him. And so that's the point of that show. Now, the Christian Conversations, those are previous conversations we've had on Dr. Paul's Family Talk and the Bible in Today's World. And it's just a full hour of nothing else going on except an interview with somebody who's discussing the Word of God.
Awesome. Well, check it out. Go to his talk show, go to his podcast, go to his radio show. Lots of great content on there, encouraging, inspirational, convicting, challenging. Check it out. And don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to DeborahHenne.com. Follow me on social on the X, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.